Hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to today's online event. This is Jill from USC. It's a pleasure to meet with all of you here today. USC graduate events are a series of webinars devoting to spread ideas. Cutting-edge knowledge and insights from different industries and areas will be presented here by world-leading and renowned professors of USC. Today's topic is Discover the New Pathway to USC Regulatory and Quality Sciences from USC School of Pharmacy. Here we invited two guest speakers from School of Pharmacy, Department of Regulatory and Quality Sciences. Dr. Eunjoo Pacifici, who's the chair and also an associate professor of Regulatory and Quality Sciences. Welcome. And Terry David Church, an assistant professor of regulatory and quality sciences. A huge welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, before we start, to our audience, at the end, we'll have around 15 minutes for Q&A. So feel free to leave your comments and questions down below in the chat box. We'll try to go over as many as we can. And please note this video will be recorded for future use. And please make sure to mute yourself during the presentation for a good quality event. Thank you for your understanding. Without further ado, let's welcome today's guest speakers.
Thank you so much, Jill. It is a pleasure for me to be here this evening for me, morning for you. It is very fitting for us to be here in this kind of across the globe, because we consider ourselves to be an international program. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Thank you again for having us join you for this wonderful program. Today, we wanted to talk about the expanding the graduate school access to those who like to join our program, who might have a different kind of a background, maybe not such rigorous scientific background. And a few of our in our audience may have joined us in our previous sessions, but a few of you may not have joined us before, and this might be the first time you hear about regulatory science. So I would like to give a little introduction about regulatory science, and then I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Terry Church to kind of discuss a new paradigm for those who might not have scientific background to enter into our program and position themselves for success. So, as Jill mentioned, I am the chair of the Department of Regulatory and Quality Sciences at USC School of Pharmacy. And you might say, well, in School of Pharmacy, isn't everyone being trained to be a pharmacist? And I myself am a trained pharmacist, and I actually graduated from USC School of Pharmacy. So at USC School of Pharmacy, we have 4 different departments. One is clinical pharmacy, which is the department that is primarily dedicated to training the pharmacists. And then we have pharmaceutical sciences for those who are interested in more of the kind of the bench science, pharmaceutics and pharmacology. We have health economics, and then we have regulatory and quality sciences. So there are 4 departments, and each department is dedicated to kind of expanding the career options for pharmacists, but then also training professionals who are perhaps within the umbrella of pharmacy, but also that includes pharmaceutical and medical device industry, as well as the regulatory agencies. So our graduates enter the field of pharmaceutical industry, medical device industry, in vitro diagnostics industry, as well as FDA within the United States and FDA abroad. So what is regulatory science? Well, you know, regulatory science is a relatively new discipline, and it is an interdisciplinary discipline where we have convergence of law and regulation, science and business. Law and regulation, because the products that are manufactured by the industry are highly regulated, because they have, along with the benefits that they pose, they also pose high risk. And so each jurisdiction, United States has their FDA, China has the NMPA, each jurisdiction has its own regulatory agency to safeguard their public. And then science, because these products are science-based. Drugs are discovered through bench science and then developed through clinical research and then approved when they meet the regulatory requirements. And business, because these products are developed by the industry. Some of the foundational work may be conducted in academia. However, in order for a product to be developed, to be ready for the market, we really need the industry's input. So a product, you know, can really only make it to the market if it makes business sense. So it has to make business sense, it has to be scientifically sound, and it has to meet the regulatory requirements for it to be commercialized. So this is our definition of regulatory science. We consider regulatory science as it relates the regulatory and legal requirements of biomedical product development, food and dietary supplements to the scientific research needed to ensure safety and efficacy of these products. And we would also include quality for these products in addition to safety and efficacy. And we see regulatory science all around us, from diagnostic testing using in vitro diagnostic devices, from vaccines and therapeutics, even things like cosmetics and over-the-counter products that we use to take care of ourselves. And sunglasses and prescription glasses are considered to be medical devices, and they are also regulated by the FDA. And then F in United States, FDA, the F stands for food, and FDA regulates food, and the jurisdiction of that overlaps with US Department of Agriculture. And then products that we use to care for our animals are also regulated by regulatory agencies. In the United States, again, it's the US FDA and the US Department of Agriculture. And sometimes you hear about these headlines. We hear when products show promising results from the initial studies, but still require a lengthy phase 3 trial before they can get approved. Or sometimes we hear about off-label uses of products that garner high attention, but then kind of fizzle out when it turns out that the products are not really useful. And the United States FDA is just one regulatory agency with jurisdictions within the United States, and they are responsible for quite a bit of products that we all use. In US, the sales of products that FDA regulates are nearly $2.6 trillion a year, which represents 20 to 25 cents out of every dollar spent by the American consumers. So if you translate that globally, the regulated products represent a huge segment of consumer products. And we have US FDA, but then around the world, we have various other regulatory agencies. In China, we have the National Medical Products Administration, or the NMPA, and in Korea, we have the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, or MFDS. PMDA is in Japan, and then EMA resides in Europe. So, and these are just very few representatives of regulatory agencies around the world. We often get officials from these regulatory agencies coming to our program to study with us. You know, international regulatory requirements is a big part of our program. Why do we care about other agencies? Well, within the United States, it turns out that we do care about what happens outside the US, because 80% of the raw ingredients used to make our medicines or active pharmaceutical ingredients come from abroad. 80% of seafood, 40% of finished dosage drugs, these are the final products, and then approximately 50% of fresh fruit and 20% of fresh vegetables come from abroad, which means that in order to fulfill FDA's mission of protecting US public health, FDA really has to be the watchdog for the global supply chain that affects United States. And I'm sure it is the same way for all the other countries around the world. You know, the pharmaceutical industry is big and growing. The reason I'm showing you this is because you can see this yellow line is the year-over-year growth, and then the green bars represent the total revenue. And you can see going back over almost 15 years that the global market size for pharmaceutical products have been increasing gradually. And now the most recent data has the pharmaceutical market being about $1.3 trillion. And even though the yellow line goes down and up and down and up, the line is always above 0%, which means that the growth is always in the positive direction. Sometimes the growth is quite big, almost close to double-digit growth, but in almost every year we see an increase in the revenue, which is very optimistic, because if you are considering exploring a career path in this sector, there is considerable demand for talent. This is breaking down the revenue across the different countries, and you can see there's always strong attention paid to the United States pharmaceutical market, because they are the largest market in the world. But then China is not that far behind. It's been growing pretty steadily over the last 10 years or so. And so you can see United States, China, and Japan are the top 3 countries in the world, followed by European countries, and then the rest of the world. And the regulatory strategy often drives the product strategy that drives the business strategy. So regulatory science becomes key to the business model for this sector, both for pharmaceutical market as well as medical device market. What do I mean by that? Well, it is the regulatory strategy that would determine who your target population will be, what disease that you will pursue. If you are going to pursue an orphan drug pathway, which has some interesting regulatory incentives, or perhaps you have a biomarker that you would like to use as surrogate endpoint, and you can go to the market in an expedited path. All those are decisions that are made in the beginning of a product development that will have significant implications down the line. And so figuring out the regulatory strategy early on will drive the product strategy and allow your product to be successful when it gets to market. So bringing a new product to market, it is a huge undertaking. Oftentimes we talk about, industry. Those are the pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies and in vitro diagnostics companies. But then, these companies work in conjunction with small startup companies, venture capital firms that fund the operations, nonprofit organizations, the regulatory agencies, contract research organizations, clinical trial sites, healthcare operations, the National Institutes of Health, academic research institutions that are all working collaboratively or in partnership to bring new products to the patients all over the world. Why do I mention this ecosystem? The reason is because this ecosystem is driven by humans, and a lot of the work is conducted. A lot of the work requires a lot of human capital, and it turns out that we are somewhat short on the supply of human talent to drive this operation. So my job as the chair of our department is, along with our faculty like Professor Terry Church, is working hard to expand the career opportunities across the product development process. We see that there are a lot of young people, in college or just graduated from college, who are thinking about their careers. But they really they're not clear as to where they would like to go. And so our job is to really present career opportunities as they are, in across this entire process. So we talked a little bit about basic research, how basic research that's often conducted in academia is translated by startups and small organizations, and then those projects get developed in pharmaceutical or medical device companies and commercialized to benefit the patients. So if you look at opportunities across, career opportunities across this spectrum, we often think about, pharmacists and nurses and doctors working right here, working with products that are already on the market. Whether you're working in the hospital, community, healthcare facilities, ambulatory care, or long-term care facilities, this is where you see your profession. But what I would like to do is I would like to say, well, there are career opportunities across this entire spectrum. So don't limit yourself to here or even in the basic research realm, but think, the industry and the entire regulated field really needs talent across the entire spectrum. So what does our program in our department look like? Well, in line with what we just described, our vision is to develop health products leaders for professions that are just beginning to exist. We provide a world-class training ground for talented professionals involved in the development and commercialization of regulated products internationally. When a company develops a product, they develop a product for patients who need that product all over the world. Our regulatory science curriculum, in which both Dr. Church and I teach, is composed of core courses and electives across various subject areas. So you can see here, medical product regulation class. You can also focus on devices or drugs and biologics. We have courses on international regulations, etc. So you can customize taking core courses and then selecting electives that meet with your your areas of interest. Our courses are also embedded in the biomedical engineering program at USC. So you can see introduction to medical product regulation, medical product safety, regulation of medical devices and diagnostics, quality systems, and standards. And that is because, you know, the biomedical engineering students who are interested in entering the medical device field need to understand the regulatory requirements. So I often see biomedical engineering students in our classes sitting alongside regulatory and quality sciences students to learn about the regulatory requirements. What makes our program unique? Well, our core full-time faculty like myself and Dr. Church, we all have more than 20 years of industry experience and are frequently still involved in consulting and working with industry. But we have also hundreds of guest speakers from industry who are subject matter experts who come in to speak with our students in all of our courses. Because the science and technology and regulations change on a daily basis. And so it's really important that we bring in speakers who are actually experts who are currently working in the field, coming in and sharing their experience and knowledge with our students. We have strong relationship with industry to help students get internships and jobs. Our courses are held on weekends that allows our students, if they have opportunities to go work in industry, to go ahead and take those opportunities and still continue their education. They can, well, these are mostly for our domestic students. They can customize their program to be full-time or part-time students. And you know, these students, if they get full-time opportunities, they can complete the courses online. For our international students, this is not an option. However, we do, because we do offer a hybrid program, our courses are recorded. So you can go ahead and review the lectures after the lectures to study. So that's something we've been doing from the get-go, because our program has always been a hybrid program to cater to working professionals. So this is kind of, in a nutshell, you know, the foundational information about our program. What I wanted to do for the rest of the session today is to turn it over to Professor Church. Because he and I have been talking about you know, how to prepare students to be successful in our program, even if perhaps their undergraduate background is not entirely science-based. So even what happens if a student does not have like a chemistry or biology background, but they are still interested in entering the biopharmaceutical or biomedical industry. So Dr. Church, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. We are so excited to be able to share this with you. This is kind of our first deployment of this whole concept that we've been working on for just about a year now, trying to develop and really refine a way to have students who, as Dr. Pacifici said, come into the program who may not have a science background. So next slide, please. Ideally, we decided to come up with a matriculation process to allow students to come in, and we had two different students in mind. We had students who may have completed their bachelor's degree in arts or science that's not in chemistry or biology or even life sciences, but who had an interest in this field. And we also wanted to make sure that we were focused on our international students who have completed a Bachelor of Arts or Science outside of the United States and might need to have a little more technical language to be able to work within the field. Next slide, please. So our criteria, for those of you who are interested, follows the international guidelines set by USC. So as you can see here, the TOEFL score, minimum of 100 and no less than a score of 20 in each section. The IELTS, score of 7, PTE, score of 68, 650 on the SAT, evidence-based reading and writing section, and 27 on the ACT English section. Now, these are just the basic numbers that USC provides as guidelines, and we do have different mechanisms to help students if they need boosted in language proficiency and other areas as well. Next slide, please. So to really position the pre-master's students for a successful time in our program in regulatory and quality sciences, we were thinking really deeply. And we came up with the notion that we already have existing courses in our undergraduate program that could be used as preparatory courses in pharmacology and drug development or biopharmaceutical sciences. Next slide, please. And as you can see, we would have our students participate in what we call the USC International Academy to help with language proficiency and also become accustomed to life in the US as you transition into being students here in the United States. And with a very minimal science background or no science background, we would require our students to take at least 12 units within our undergraduate program at the upper level in either of our two major programs. And as you can see here, these are the descriptions of our courses, the course titles actually. Introduction to Pharmacology and Therapeutics, you would get a really well-rounded view of pharmacology and the different therapeutics that are currently being used across different disease states. Human Pharmacology, Challenge in Therapeutics in Society, really delves a little more into different diagnostic and therapeutic areas that are really kind of hot and current in this market. 407, the Discovery and Development of and Marketing of Medicines. This is a really good course for those who are interested in understanding how medicines move through the market in the United States. And finally, in this same category, Globalization in the Biomedical Industry, which is taught by Dr. Pacifici, and is a very good course because it touches on a variety of different areas around the world that are hotspots in this industry. If drug development doesn't sound like an interesting field for you, we also have our biopharmaceutical sciences, which is a little more geared towards health economics. And one of the courses there is Pharmaceutical and Health Economics, where you learn how pricing and structured pricing happens across different markets, how to position products appropriately, and the like. And then we also have biopharmaceutical product development and brand planning. This really looks at the stages and steps necessary to get a product out into the market and make it successful. And then finally, we have biopharmaceutical marketing analysis and strategy. And this really looks more in depth at what it takes to get a marketing plan put together for a specific product. Next slide, please. So we also want to just pay a little homage to our students who we currently have. We've got some amazing students doing amazing things in our program. And one of the things that we encourage is research, as well as participation in programs like our TRACS program, which we can probably do a whole day talking about, or at least one conversation about in the near future for sure. Next slide, please. Just to give you some high-level overview, though, our student organizations, we have the Reg-Sci, which is Regulatory Science Student Research Group, and currently we have 24 members who are a variety of students ranging from undergraduate all the way through to PharmDs. We have the PDD, or Pharmacology Drug Development Society, for our student research and social organization, and currently they have 47 members. In terms of research and internships, we have the Regulatory Science Research Team. There's also partnership with the Institute for Addiction Sciences for those who are interested in studying addiction, and lab opportunities and a variety of different lab placements across the School of Pharmacy. And I'm really proud to say that we have been able to present 12 different and very unique posters of student research at professional meetings around the US in the past 2 years, which is really great if you think about it. Next slide, please. So I know that was kind of quick and fast and a really quick way of looking at how we are planning on approaching our new program and our new way of getting students in through a matriculation process. So there's a lot of information that we have left off or may not have touched on fully. So with that being said, I would like to point you towards our website. If you do have additional questions, you can check the website. You can even look up our email addresses and email us if you have direct questions, or email one of our specialty staff members who will help you in finding the correct answer or finding a way to the correct answer. Next slide, please. We have a variety of programs to offer, as we've touched on so far. We have everything from our bachelor's degree, which we went into, our graduate program, including a doctoral degree, master's degrees, and even certificates for those who are interested. Next slide, please. This is our wonderful faculty, many of whom have experience across a number of different fields in industry, government, and academia, and have on average worked for at least 20 years in their respective fields before coming back to work as faculty. Next slide, please. But none of this work could be done without our amazing staff. They really keep us supported. They help us. They answer questions for us. They make sure that we are still up and moving around after a long day of grading. They'll knock on our door and remind us that it's time for tea, which is always great. But we couldn't do it without their support. And many of these individuals, if you come spend time with us, you will get to know them very well. And they're very much like family. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for joining us today and attending. And at this point in time, we would like to turn it over to discussion from the audience.
I think last time we were only able to get through half of our presentation because there were so many questions. And so Dr. Church and I said, well, let's not, monopolize the airwaves with our talking. Let's see if the audience has specific questions that we can address, so we can have more of a conversation versus lecturing. We lecture all day, and so we don't really need to lecture in the evening as well. But kind of, I just wanted to maybe follow up on this idea of students who like to enter this regulated field, whether it's drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, or dietary supplement, or even food, and want to kind of ask Dr. Church, have you seen in your classroom, have you seen in your courses, non-science majors coming and taking your courses, and what has that experience been like?
So that's a great question. And yes, I have had non-scientists who've come and taken my courses. Luckily, I teach at our very beginning courses in the 200 level, and I work all the way up through to the 400 level. So I get to see a wide variety of students. Dr. Pacifici and I both teach 2 different courses that we call GEs, or general education, where you get a wide variety of students from all over. In this semester, I've actually had a couple of students in our cinema school who just fell in love with the idea of medicines, and they wanted to do more. So I have one of those students who is currently going to minor in our program, never has done science before, but is very excited about regulatory and has committed to really learn the science behind what she's doing. And she's taking a few classes that are not required just for her own information, biology and chemistry. So it really depends on the passion of the student, and you see a wide variety of people really get drawn to the field. And a lot of that, I think, is due to the flexibility of regulatory science, the uniqueness of it, and also the pay is pretty good, especially coming out of undergraduate and graduate. The pay is pretty amazing, and they know that they'll have a stable job. So it's very, very enticing for them.
Yes, in fact, I think today's session is kind of a 1-2 punch, because next Monday we have another session, and I think in next week's session we will focus primarily on career opportunities, even looking at jobs that are available, looking at what the job qualifications are, and kind of talk about how we address those requirements that are on job postings, and also look at the salaries, job, kind of the nature of the positions, and the salaries for those positions across the industry. So we'll go a little deeper in that. And so I think I also, Dr. Church, I also have had students from business administration. I've had students from engineering. Also, I think I've had students from the performing arts as well, or cinematic arts. And yeah, you know, one particular student that I had last semester, who I think was from the School of Cinematic Arts, and she, you know, she did really well. She was so engaged, and her deliverables were so creative. And I think if you think about it, if you think about the marketing side of these products, you have to be creative about how to kind of, you know, design commercials and ad campaigns and the marketing strategy for these products to communicate to a variety of audiences, to physicians, to patients, and also to, you know, government and insurance agencies. So communication skills become paramount, and I think that is one of the things that we see, Dr. Church and I. We see that having a diverse group of group of students coming into the program really benefits the industry, because the industry needs not only scientists, but the industry needs good communicators. The industry needs marketing professionals. So, and as well as clinical scientists. So, you know, that's kind of why we're doing this tonight, because Dr. Church and I see the need of the industry goes beyond the narrow field of science. And there is this lack of awareness by young adults that there is this wide world of opportunity available for them, where they can do something really kind of exciting, rewarding, and worthwhile. So I think we have a couple questions here. Should I read them, Jill, or did you want to coordinate?
Yeah, if you want, go ahead.
Okay,
I
so
have
the
questions
first one.
from other platform as well.
Okay, so Lee Fang is asking, thank you, Professor. How about career path or opportunities for pharmacists and students graduating from regulatory science in the United States? So that's a great question. So I give something similar to this to our pharmacy students. And I tell them the world is their oyster. They can go into clinical development, where they can help to design and conduct clinical trials. They can work in the post-marketing arena, where they can evaluate the adverse event reporting that comes from their products. That's called pharmacovigilance, because, you know, the sponsor or the manufacturer is responsible for monitoring and reporting adverse events for the entire time that the product is on the market. We call it from cradle to grave, from the moment the manufacturer introduces the product to the moment they completely withdraw the product from the market. They are responsible for monitoring, collecting, and reporting adverse events. And who better than healthcare professional like pharmacists to work in that field? And then other students who graduate from our program, we have had our students go into regulatory affairs, working as a liaison between the company and the regulatory agency. We have students going to clinical affairs, conducting clinical trials, business development, marketing. Some of our students have gone to consulting firms and venture capital firms. So it's, so that's the thing that's really kind of cool about our program, is that our students go into a variety of different areas. So you can actually customize your career path based on your interests. It's not like, I mean, with a nursing degree, you can also have a very expanded career path. But oftentimes, when you think about somebody becoming, graduating with a nursing degree, you can imagine they go and become a nurse and work as a nurse. Well, our program, when you say, oh, you graduated with regulatory and quality sciences, where do you work? And you could, the world is very, very expansive. Many of our students go and become quality experts in the quality science arena. So that's a long way of addressing your question, Lee, but that's kind of how it is. Question from Eric. Thank you, Professor, for great information. I have two questions. My undergraduate degree is in marketing, which is not related to chemistry or biology. And my GPA is around 3.1, very good. And I find that a course about regulatory strategy in Asia, it covers China, plus during pandemic, do we study e-commerce market also? Thank you. Maybe I'll hand it over to
Sure.
you, Terry.
I think that this is a great question. Marketing is a huge component of what we do in regulatory, and being able to specifically help get your product out into the general world is a good thing to do. And there are a lot of things that we can talk about related to that type of regulatory field within marketing. So it's not, don't be dissuaded by it, because definitely having the skills in marketing is something that would be very beneficial. Your GPA is pretty solid, which is great. And the question about the regulatory strategy in Asia, yes, it does cover China. A big portion of it would cover China and looking at that area. But we also look at places similar to Korea, Vietnam, and we can also even talk about India in that same type of discussion, but a lot of it focuses on China. During the pandemic, we did do a bit of e-commerce and e-marketing. And we have a couple of classes where we delve into that for sure, as it is a trend in the market and a trend in what we're seeing happening out in the real world. So all of these things are pluses in my mind. I think that this would make for a good candidate. Now, I would recommend that you do have a little bit of science to kind of ground you in the terminology that we use. But beyond that, I think that these skills would play very nicely into what a regulatory scientist could do.
Cynthia is asking about the master's in biomedical engineering, regulation, and master in regulatory studies. Both involve regulation. What are the differences in terms of performance, curriculum, admissions requirement, careers? Is it possible to transfer majors between each other? Not really easy to I mean, you can. We have had, but it's not. It's a different school. It's, the biomedical engineering is under the School of Engineering. Our program is under the School of Pharmacy. So there are separate programs, but, I'm sure there are ways that we can have students transfer from one program to another. As I mentioned, the biomedical engineering has a track that includes a few of our courses. So obviously those courses, you retain the units for those courses that can be applied in our program. What are the differences? The master's in biomedical engineering is more heavily weighted toward engineering. So, many of those students go on to be engineers in medical device companies. The master's in regulatory science, our students may go and work in medical device companies as well, but not as engineers, but oftentimes as clinical scientists or regulatory affairs specialists and regulatory affairs managers. And some of our students also go into the quality portion of the organization, where they look at quality assurance and quality control mechanisms. Yi Hong, thank you for the introduction. Compared with other similar programs in the United States, what are your pros and cons? Our pros is, as we alluded to, we have full-time faculty who have industry background. We also have hundreds of invited speakers who are current professionals working in the field, who come and are generous with their time and energy. Our program is primarily an on-site program, and with a remote or distance component for those who are working in the industry who do not live in our region. But we emphasize the on-site interaction very much because we feel that it is the interpersonal skills and the communication skills that are going to set our graduates apart from their peers, because they will be ready when they graduate. They will be ready to hit the ground running in their company, working in team environment, being able to contribute, being able to communicate complex topics in easy to understand manner that will allow them to be noticed by those around them. So some programs are primarily online, but our program is primarily on site. The other thing is that our program is offered on weekends, and that is because during the week, our students are working as interns, working as volunteer consultants, and if they get a job, in their last year or the last semester, they can go ahead and work as a full-time professional and still able to complete their degree. So it's the flexibility, it's the rigorous approach to interpersonal and communication skills. It is the combination of industry and academia by integrating industry speakers into our program. What is the con? Well, the con, I have to say, is the sticker shock. And it's just the way it is. USC is a private university. Our tuition is quite high. At the same time, our master's program is between 32 and 36 units. So it's not like a medical school or other professional schools where it's a 4 years worth of tuition. As you will learn next week, the salary is quite high. And the salary, will increase every year if you perform well in your job. And so the profession has a really wonderful career trajectory, plus bonuses and plus stock options. And so I think, the initial investment in the tuition is really worth the reward that you reap just within a few years. The other thing is that because, even as international students, once you pass a certain period in the United States, you can work as an intern. And these are paid internship positions. During the school year, you can work up to 20 hours a week. During the summer, you can work 40 hours, which is a full-time schedule. So, and these are well-paid internship positions. And so I think, combined with being able to work, as a student, as an intern, and then these benefits of high salaries after you graduate, I think, even though our tuition is definitely high, but not higher than any other private school, I think the rewards are well worth it. As a testament, I went to School of Pharmacy for 4 years at USC, and my tuition was still high even way back then as a private university, but I never look back with any regret in terms of the investment in my education. So maybe next one for you, Terry, Cecilia. Sure. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious about regulatory part we learned is focused on US. Is it suitable for other countries regulatory as well?
So yes, we do focus a lot on the US just because of where we are, but we do have different regulatory paradigms that we look at from around the world. It is a global industry, and oftentimes what we're finding is that a lot of the countries who are developing their own programs for regulatory oftentimes look to the US model to emulate or build off of. So if you look at places like PDMA or PMDA, I always get the acronym wrong, PMDA.
MDA.
Yes, in Japan, a lot of their processes are built in conjunction with ours. It's an internationally harmonized world, or we're hoping to get it to be that way. So a lot of what we do will be very translatable to other parts of the world as well. One of the really nice things that I don't think we've stressed yet is that our programs are all very much geared towards real world problems. We don't give just theory. We give you practice. We give you ways of applying what you're learning. And if you have, for example, an interest in learning more about China, you can bring that independent learning into the classroom and help others learn a little bit about the Chinese culture in relation to regulatory affairs. So I think it's a very good model to follow. But yes, to answer your question, a lot of the focus would be US, but it is very applicable to other parts of the world.
Yes, and when we talk about the regulatory requirements, we do more than, I mean, we don't recite the Code of Federal Regulation and have you memorize it word for word, but rather our goal is to convey the essential elements of those requirements. You know, the essential elements of quality, essential elements of safety and efficacy that are absolutely translatable across the various regions. So when you understand not only what you need to do, but why you need to do them, that, you know, that actually travels far, because that's, you know, we want you to understand the core concepts. Why do you need to do risk assessment? You know, why do you need to, pick, surrogate endpoints that are then followed on by clinical endpoints? You know, what do we mean by, surrogate endpoints? What do we mean by clinical outcomes? And, you know, the understanding the core concepts, it will really allow you to bring more value to the organization that you enter after graduation. What is the GPA requirement? Our minimum GPA requirement is 3.0. What is the tuition? So the tuition is by units. So every year it changes. It never goes down. It always seems to go up a little bit. I think right now it's about 2,100 or 2,200 per unit. And to complete a master's program, our management in drug development requires 32 units, as well as medical product quality. Our more general master's in regulatory science is 36 units. So somewhere between like $67,000 to something like, $72,000 or something like that will get you the entire master's degree. And it usually takes about 2 years to complete it. So cutting that in half, something like, $35,000 for tuition per year. Again, although our school is a private university, as an international student, even a public university in the United States, the tuition will still be pretty steep. So I think as an international student, the difference between a public school and a private university is probably not all that significant. USC, the thing about USC also is that our alumni base is quite strong. So we have been around for about 20 years now, our program, and our graduates are everywhere. They are, in hiring positions at all the major, as well as startup companies in biologics, in pharmaceuticals, and medical device companies all over the United States, and in fact, all over the world. So it's kind of cool. In fact, I had one of our alumni, she said the other day, she said, when I need to hire a whole bunch of people, and I go through the resumes, and if they say they graduated from USC regulatory science program, I pick those and put them on top. Because we have really garnered the trust of the industry professionals, to know that our graduates show up at their workplace having been really well trained and having been well advised and mentored. It's for Dr. Church and me, it's not about just giving you a lecture and walking out the room. It's about really getting to know our students and figuring out what it is that they want to do with their lives, where their strengths and weaknesses are, and helping them to find their path to careers where they can maximize their strength and minimize their weakness. It's no use trying to, pound a square peg into a round hole. It's much better if each person finds a place where they can be happy and they can really perform at their top performance. So that's kind of what we're doing, because we feel that this is really a fascinating area, because, where would we be without the therapeutics that are, discovered and developed and commercialized by the industry? And so as a pharmacist and a healthcare professional, as well as an academician, I wouldn't be in this role if I didn't believe in the work that the industry does. Of course, sometimes we hear about bad things that have happened, because of some of the bad actors and bad players. But by and large, the companies are doing really good work, because it makes good business sense for them to do good work. And I am proud of our students who work hard in our program and then graduate and work hard in their profession, and help the world be a better place.
So we just got another question in that says, is it possible for international students to find work in the US after graduation? Yes, definitely. It is possible. And we do have students who have done that in the past and have gone on to work in the field in a variety of different areas, different sectors. But it's also possible to go back and work in your own country at a higher rate, at a higher salary, which we have a lot of students who do that as well. So they come and they learn a lot of the skills from us, and then they also know how to work with the US market. So when they return home, they're specialists in the US market as well as their own market, and they're able to do a lot more unique work, working on products that are coming to the US.
Yes, I think, historically, the opportunities, presented themselves primarily in the United States, because this was where all the innovative work was being done, and the demand was very high for talent. The demand is still very high. Our graduates, seem to get jobs quite readily upon graduation. However, United States does not stand alone anymore in the area of innovative product development. A lot of good work is being done in China, and there are domestic companies in China as well as multinational companies in China who are really struggling to find a well-qualified talent, and so I'm not looking just to train students to go into the career opportunities within the United States, but I see I see the need across the world, and I also, Professor Church and I, feel the responsibility of training the next generation of professionals who might find opportunities wherever they would like to pursue. And so, so that's kind of the way we see it. We don't think that innovation is really will be monopolized by United States. Innovation can come from anywhere around the world, and the next big breakthrough could very well come from China, in addition to United States. So I want everybody in this audience to think about that. There's nothing that is so exclusive about innovative products coming out of United States. I think in the future they could be coming from anywhere around the world.
Yeah, inspiring. Very inspiring presentation to me and to all of, I guess, all of the audience. I have actually, I have a couple of questions from other live stream platforms as well. So I might just go over and, help them to ask those questions. So related to what you just said, the well-paid interns that the students will have during their master time at the school. So can you give some examples of the lab experience or the internship experience or the opportunities that you might have recalled from your students? Is there any opportunities, examples for those audience?
So I can think of a good one that just happened very recently with one of our students who is about to graduate. He has been accepted to work at Kite Pharmacy, where he had done an internship this fall, and he had worked while going to school, working on his master's degree, and they just offered him a full-time position. So it is quite possible, and the opportunities are pretty endless. We constantly have different pharmaceutical companies approaching us with opportunities. We also have alumni that we reach out to who have jobs and potential jobs available. And we're always looking for new and unique relationships with companies that we feel are going to help our students out and to maximize what our program does out in the real world. Companies that we feel are going to help our students out and to maximize. It's like I'm back in the past, it seems like.
Now we do not, it is the responsibility of the students to secure their own internship opportunities, but we help prepare them, and when they do, secure an interview, that they can demonstrate their competency. And many of the employers are quite impressed when our students show up at their competency. So we're very proud of them. But yes, so internship, usually our students come, our international students, it takes them, I think, something like 6 to 9 months of having been in residence in the United States before they are allowed to work outside of United States, outside of the institution. So during that time, if they wanted to work, they can work as student workers in our department or at the university. But then after that, they can look for internship opportunities, and they can have internship in clinical development or regulatory affairs, in pharmaceutical companies, startup, biotech companies, or medical device companies. Sometimes they get jobs in dietary supplement companies as well, and oftentimes these internship positions start off as a summer internship position, but quite a number of our students are asked to remain as interns during the school year, but they have to ramp down their hours from 40 hours to 20 hours.
Oh, yeah, that will do. Totally see the advantage of that. Okay, thank you for your answer. And I've got another question asking if this audience is going to enter is going to work in a startup medical equipment company. He wants to know the advantage of being in this program instead of studying business, or like in business program in general.
So medical equipment is considered medical devices. And so if you want to commercialize your product, business degree is not enough. You have to understand what the regulatory requirements are. So understanding the regulatory requirements of medical devices is really important. So that's how our program would be helpful. We also our program is quite diverse, and it includes not only medical devices but also drugs and biologics. And the reason why that's important is because more and more medical devices are combined with drugs or biologics as combination products. So if you have a medical equipment, you might have a medical equipment that is used to deliver medicines. If you have a drugs or biologics that work in oncology or cancer therapy area, you might have to have a companion diagnostic to identify patients with specific mutations. So, we are finding the lines between therapeutic products and medical devices blurring. And so our program allows the students to kind of have a broad perspective across the different product classes. Because when they're working in a company, let's say they're working in a medical device company, and they're partnering with a drug company for drug delivery system. Well, if they're looking for somebody to lead that team, you would want somebody who knows not only about medical devices, but also about drugs and biologics too. And so our graduates, when they first enter an entry position, they might have a work that is narrow in scope, but then as opportunities to show up, they can just go ahead and take those opportunities because they're already positioned for higher positions with broader responsibilities. So we're not training our students to have very narrow jobs. When you enter a new career, your initial job is narrow, but we know that very quickly, as you move up the ladder, your responsibilities are going to broaden. And our students are ready for that. And that's why I often find from the employers that graduates from our program seem different.
Makes sense. I bet. Yeah. Thank you for your explanation. And I think due to time limits, we can go over one more question from Zoom. And is that okay for?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay. So the last question from Zoom, I'll read it out. If I completed 4 units during pre-master, I guess, PM, right? Should I complete the other 8 units during my master? Will this extend the length of my master study?
So the way that it would work, you would work on some of these units while you are part of the International Academy, doing things with them, and some of that can be done during the summer. But definitely we would want to be mindful of not adding additional coursework for you just for the sake of coursework. So it won't extend the length of your master's study, but we will have to get you up to speed with some of the terminology, some of the core concepts and things like that in the science field. So it won't lengthen your stay, but it will enrich your stay. Let's say that.
Yeah. Just like you introduced in your presentation, I guess that was very detailed. Yeah, I guess that explained your question, Lee. And we've reached out 11,000 viewers on the other platforms. That's a big hit for everyone, I guess. And thank you all for sharing. At last but not least, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience as a tradition?
So please go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the questions that came up is about our next session. So I believe our next session is set for next week, but I think you will be sending out an announcement, right, Jill?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So very good. Well, I go first for my final statement, which is to say that I'm very impressed that so many of you have tuned in to this platform to learn about this career, because I think you could have been doing many other things during this hour and a half. You could have been, I don't know, watching soap operas on TV, or having a snack, or but instead you tuned in to hear about our program and think about your future career opportunities. So I'd like to congratulate all of you for your dedication and your planning for your future. And I wish all of you a lot of success in your future endeavor. And I hope that I will hear from you or even see you in our classrooms in the future. Thank you.
Definitely. And just building on that, I want to thank you all for the really creative questions that you came at us with tonight. They help us in terms of tailoring this for future talks, as well as just keeping in mind what our students and potential students are thinking. So thank you for sharing so much. We really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for showing up and giving us such an inspiring presentation and informative, detailed information about the program. Is very specific and useful, valuable, I guess, for everyone. Thank you all again so much for joining us today. So until next time, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yes,
Thank you so
very
much.
Wonderful job, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
day.
you. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Good job.
Good night. Bye.